In this painting, just we can get an idea. Painting a mountain landscape with a vibrant red tree in acrylic follows a back to front layering approach. You start with the distant sky and move toward the detailed foreground to create a sense of depth. To create a subtle light tone sky with hints of light blue, light green using vertical strokes, heavily prioritized titanium white, adding tiny amount of blue and very tiny amount of green. Mix the colors on the palette and just apply in rapid vertical strokes first. The vertical strokes movement, especially with the damp brush, creates a layered texture rather than a smooth airbrushed look. Just start from the very top and pull the brush down in long continuous vertical strokes all the way to the bottom. Avoid starting or stopping in the middle to prevent visible seams. And using the same flat brush to create a mountain base with a black outline and a sap green landscape, start by establishing the darkest value first. This creates a solid foundation for adding light and texture later. Just the lines rather than perfect triangles to make a peaks look more natural, and use black acrylic paint to fill in the mountain silhouette. Next to creating the base of land with the sap green, and the foundation layer, apply sap green to the lower portion of our canvas where the mountain meet the ground. Use the same flat brush to create the base of our field, and next adding the depth and taping to create look of grassy hills or bushes. Lightly tape and just a horizontal rows. Creating a base layer with sap green, next highlighting the layer with brilliant yellow green and light green by using a sponge in acrylic painting is an excellent technique for creating foliage textures and landscapes. This method relies on layering colors from dark to light to achieve natural depth and dimension. Just using a gentle dabbing motions, press and lift the sponge over the canvas. Work from dark to light, applying this deep green across the area where you want to darker shaded foliage. Allow this base layer to dry slightly before adding the next layer to maintain distinct textures. Just lightly dab highlight the colors onto the top edges using the brilliant yellow green to create a glowing effect. Here the base layer of this mountain already dry completely, and another one texture, just adding little dark green here too. Just here highlighting the peak of the mountain with white acrylic paint using a liner brush is a technique designed to create a sharp, crisp and detailed snowy ridges. A liner brush allows a delicate breezy lines. Next, to paint a tree trunk and branches using black, brown and white acrylics. Focus on building structures with dark tones before layering lighter values for texture and depth. First, start with the trunk. Don't just draw a straight line. Think of it as a slight wavy organic shape that widens at the bottom. Use a darker brown and even a mix of brown and black. Then extend your branches from the trunk, getting thinner and you reach outwards. While creating trunk of tree, just start the base with heavy pressure to make it wider. Then gradually release pressure as you move upward to taper the trunk. Once completing the trunk, just we add the main branches, pull secondary branches from the trunk. Just you can use a Y shape or V shapes and just ensure they are thickest. Just they connect to the trunk and thin outward towards the tips. Just apply a pure brown over the middle of the trunk and leaving the black visible on the edges. Just extreme left. And finally, to paint tree foliage with red acrylics using a sponge dabbing techniques, follow these steps to create texture and depth. Here I am using small piece of sponge and just dampen the sponge slightly. Use it dry for sharper, more defined textures. Dip our sponge with little dark red color and dab the sponge onto the canvas in the gentle shape of a tree and just create shadows and establish Just apply to the tree and creating this foliage using light dabbing motions. Apply this dark red to the areas where you want to most foliage, especially focusing on the underside of leaves clusters where shadows would naturally fall. Don't feel hard to try and make it your own paintings. I think detail of this painting and the colors combinations inspiring you. Finally, I am using linear brush long bristles and using the black acrylic. I am just creating the teeny branches which do the small detail and with thinned out black paint and just tiny and branches extending from the main limbs using the wiggle motions with your brush to give them a natural organic look. If you are the absolute beginner and would like to learn an easy techniques, try this painting. I am welcoming you. Come and join to paint in my art journey. If you feel little harder to paint today means put you a little practice. You feel easier to do tomorrow. While learning something new, give yourselves a little break. No one is perfect at painting when they first start. Now this same application around the trunk, the base layer start at the very base of the near tree trunk. Since leaves pile up thickest against the bark and use a heavier tapping pressure here to create a dense dark red shadow area. So here creating a red falling foliage on the ground near the tree trunk using a sponge and the dabbing motion techniques is an effective way to create textured, imaginative autumn ground cover. And just hold the brush perpendicular to the canvas, allowing only the very tip to touch the surface, and using a delicate almost drawing motions apply the white paint along the very top edge of the mountain ridge. The final highlighting add the brightest white and the highest point of this peak, as this is where the sun hits directly. Just for a snowy texture heavily look on the slopes, use almost no pressure, allowing the bristles to skip over the canvas and create broken textured white lines. Here just apply highlights with white acrylic. First determine the light source facing which side. Decide that which side the light is coming from. I am choosing the extreme right side. The final highlights, mix a small amount of white acrylic to create a light tone gently and stroke this onto the sun facing side of the trunk and the tops of the branches to use pure white sparingly only on the highest points to make the tree pop. Just try holding the brush at the very end of the handle to allow for looser, more random movements for when while creating the very two tiny branches.